Why did the Torah tell us he's the most humble individual that ever walked the face of this earth? Just saying he was humble would have been good enough. Because it's coming to show us that it was his humility that gave him access to God in a way that no one ever else had that opportunity to access. So our Torah tells us how the spies enter the land. And now we already know the end of the story, that there were 10 who returned with a negative report, 2 that returned with a positive report, namely Kalev ben Yefuneh and Yoshua bin Nun. They go, they tour the land, they see what they see. Remarkably enough, they all see the same thing. All 12 sets of those eyeballs saw the exact same thing. Yet the first 10, they come back in the first 10, they say, and I'll quote, I'm in chapter 13, verse, I'm going to go back. Chapter 13, verse 27. It says, Vaisaperu lo, vayomeru lo, banu el haaretz. They come and they tell the Jewish people, we came to this land, asher shelachtanu, where you sent us. V'gam zavat halav udvashi, v'zeh pirya. They say it's a land that's flowing with milk and honey. And they brought as a display these massive fruits. Look how much blessing there is. They start off good, but then it turns a little sour. Efes, I'm in verse 28 now. Efes ki az ha'am hayoshev ba'aretz. But, you know, whenever someone tells you, oh, this guy's so nice, but, it was a great event, but, unfortunately, the nature of the word, B-U-T, removes anything else that you said. It's like you take a cup and you put in, but there's a hole at the bottom. Literally. I didn't mean to be so graphical. Okay. Efes ki az ha'am hayoshev ba'aretz. This nation is so strong. That's all they said. They didn't say we can beat them, we could beat them, but they come now and they're so strong. V'he'arim betsurot gedolot meod. They've got large, fortified cities. V'gam yelidei ha'anak reinu shem. We also saw giants. So they started off positive. Now they're entering, I don't want to say something negative, but they're entering something scary. They're now scaring the nation. And then they continue, verse 29. Amalek yoshev be'eretz hanegev. Amalek is positioned here. Chiti ve'ebusi ve'amori yoshev bahar. Ve'akenani yoshev al hayam. Ve'al yad ha'yarden. He now maps out where all the nations are occupying the land of Canaan. Right away, verse 30. Vayahas Kalev et ha'am el Moshe. Kalev jumps up and he tells Moses in front of the whole nation. Vayomer, he tells them, regardless of what they said, no matter how strong they are, no matter how fortified their cities are, no matter where everyone is situated, no matter if there's giants or not, Alo na'ale ve'arashnu ota. Let's go up and let's take it over. We can do it. Ki yachol nuchal la. Because we can do it. Right away, jumps into positivity. Look at the next verse, verse 31. Ve'anashim asher alu imo. But the other 10, amru lo nuchal la'alot. Now they get negative. It was positive, scary. Then Kalev senses it's going the wrong way. He gets up and he adds some positivity. And now the 10 spies, they come and they say something derogatory, something negative for the first time about the land. Telling them, Lo nuchal la'alot el ha'am. We can't beat them. Ki hazaku mimenu. They're stronger than us. Verse 32. ויוציאו דיבת הארץ אשר תרו אותה אל בני ישראל לאמור הארץ אשר עברנו בה לתור אותה ארץ אוכלת יושביה היא וכל העם אשר ראינו בתוכה אנשי מידות. They said that the land that you send us to is a land which devours its inhabitants, as I'll explain in a moment. And it's a land of massive people, huge giants. We cannot beat them. So what does he mean? What do the 10 mean that it's a land that devours its inhabitants? We know, the commentaries tell us, that when the Jewish people, when these spies entered the land, God made a miracle. Made a miracle that they would not be seen, or better yet, they would not be paid attention to, because the princes and family members would be dying, and the nation would be busy in burying them, and mourning them, eulogizing them. So since they were occupied with that, they wouldn't pay attention. Actually, when the spies recount how they felt next to these giants, they said, "V'ayinu k'hagavim be'enehem." We were like grasshoppers in their eyes. Commentaries say be'enehem, in their eyes, meaning the people that lived in the land of Canaan actually saw the spies, but they disregarded them because they were so busy with what they did. They were so busy with tending to all of the dead. So the spies turned it to the negative. They said, look at this scary land. Huge people dying. We couldn't do it. Let's not go. And that's when the Jewish people hear this and they break out into crying. And God decrees on them that this generation will not enter the land. They will have to perish and wait for a complete recycling, as we say, of a generation, until a generation which is meritorious of entering this chosen land can actually go in. The Zera Shimshon asks, if the intention of the 10 negative spies, which by the way the Torah calls them anashim, to tell us in a beautiful praise that they were the best. They were wise and they were righteous, yet they still fell. He says, once they came back with this negative report, if their intention was to give a negative report, why didn't they start with it? He says, it seems like something that Kalev said triggered them to take it to the next level. Again, we said, they said something positive, they said something scary, and then Kalev added in, he jumped in and interrupted, and then they escalated to a negative connotation, something derogatory about the land of Israel. The Zera Shimshon wants to know why. If they wanted to say something negative, let them start with it. And if they didn't, so what did Kalev say that triggered them to get negative now? Okay? That's why I went through all the psukim so we would understand exactly the context of this question. Listen to what he says. He quotes the Zohar. Now the Zohar could be, there's different ways how the Zohar actually says this happens. I'm going to explain how, but it all boils down to the same concept. One way the Zohar says it is that Moses gave the spies a gift before entering the land of Israel. As it says, Aluze Banegev, go up, start from the south. The word Ze has been used already. It was actually used by God. In Exodus chapter 4, it says, Ve'et hamateh hazeh tikach beyadecha. God tells Moses, take this staff with you to perform all of the miracles you're going to do in front of Pharaoh. The stick was called Zeh, the staff. So our commentaries learn, the Zohar learns, that Moses gave Zeh, the staff, which had etched on it God's name, to the spies, that when they go and they're traveling, and if there's any harm that comes their way, lift the staff, and miraculously all your problems and enemies will go away. That's one interpretation. Another interpretation, the Zohar says, is Zeh means, is the gematria, the numerical value of 12, that Moses gave the spies a secret 12-letter name to think of when their enemies came their way. The Zera Shimshon quotes the Zohar differently and says Moses gave a 4-letter name to the spies to think of if they find themselves in danger with any encounter of any enemies in the land of Canaan. Either way, however you want to learn it, it seems that Moses gave these spies a special gift. He gave them an assistance. He gave them the name of God to either use or think of if they would come into any trouble. So still, with this name, the spies felt, number one, we didn't use this name. They didn't even pay attention to us because the land is so rotten and so horrible, it's devouring its inhabitants. We didn't use the name. But now what does Kalev say? Kalev says, I'm going to quote to you, Vayomer, Alo na'ale v'yarashnu ota ki yachol nuchal la. Let's go up and take it over, because we can do it. He says, the Zera Shimshon, look at the last the last letter of each of these four words. Na'ale v'yarashnu ota ki, backwards is Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, which is God's name. Look how fascinating it is. The Zera Shimshon says, when Kalev got up and said, we can do it, no problem. Moses already gave us God's name. Thank God we didn't have to use it. But we can still use it. Let's take over the land with God's name, the secret name Moses gave us. Alluding to it with the last, as we say in Hebrew, the Safet Tevot, the last letters of these four words. To that aggravated the spies, the 10 spies. And now they jumped up and said, no! We can't do it. They were displaying their lack of Emunah. Even with God's name. It's like they completely did a whole spin. Even with God's name, we cannot take it over. And that's what made the Jewish people so scared and so sad, that brought them into their depression, which lasted for the next 39 years. They were stuck. So the Zera Shimshon explains exactly what the back and forth was. What aggravated them? What aggravated them is that they had a lack of Emunah. They said, how come are you such a believer? Kalev and Yoshua, how come are you guys so strong believers? And when they said this, the Torah says that Kalev and Yoshua, they ripped their clothes and they started crying. How can you guys have saw the same thing like us and come back with completely derogatory and negative response and report? And then the Jewish people broke down, and that was the beginning of their end. Something strong we can learn from this is it doesn't matter how great a person is, we see the greatest fell, that a person always has to invest in their emunah. What does that mean, to invest in your emunah? Whenever you take a cup, you can look at the cup and say it's either half full of water or half empty. Everybody can see and interpret whatever they want. The Talmud says about dreams, when you have a dream, be careful who you say the dream to, because based on the interpretation is how it will be. The same dream, a beautiful dream can be interpreted negatively and it will be bad, or a horrible dream can be interpreted positively and it will be good. Dreams are not the only thing of this nature. Our life, every encounter, every occurrence is the same. However we look at something is what it will be and what it means. Whatever we look at, if we're looking at it and we're saying that is God, then it is God, and it's God's will, and it's the good. But if we look at that same thing, or someone else looks at that same thing and says it's a mistake, it's not what God promised us, this is not the land, mistake on God, chas v'shalom, then that's what you will believe it is, and that's what it will be for you. We are that powerful. Don't sell yourself short. If you think positively, you will draw positivity towards you. If you think negatively, negativity will be drawn towards you. If you are happy, if you think you're happy, you convince yourself you're going to be happy, well, you will be, and happiness will come your way. And if not, depression will come your way. We are that powerful. We can do it. We saw 12 great men see the same things. Yet 2 of them came out with something positive, and 10 of them came out with something negative. And the lesson I want to pull out from this story is that if we look at life and we do not infuse God, if we do not see that it is God that is doing it, we are not investing in our emunah, and then it will be easy to fall off the track. In everything we see, nature, science, technology, architecture, poetry, obviously the Torah Kedosha, life, and even death. If we look at all of that and we find God in it because He's there, then God will be there for you. God will help you see Him in a better way and guide you the right way. That's what it means to live with emunah. We need to invest in our emunah with God. Our relationship with God is like any other relationship. A husband and wife that don't put in their relationship, a father and son, a mother and a daughter, two friends. If you don't invest in the relationship will break down and decompose and eventually disintegrate. Our relationship with God will be the same, chas v'shalom. But it's just like every other relationship. The more you give, the more you put in, the more you see. If one message we can take from this week's Torah portion, from this part of Zera Shimshon, analyzing the mistake and the escalation of the 10 spies who failed and faulted, is they did not look for God. They did not find God because they were not looking for it. It was a lack of emunah. Let's not make the same mistake. Let's look for God in everything, and let's infuse emunah in every way and build our emunah.